Now, as you can see, there's a lot of knobs and buttons on this recording console. But if we look closely, we can identify that really it's just an accumulation of a lot of strips that appear to be identical. Well, they are identical. So if we can really understand how one of these strips functions, we essentially understand how mostly all of this recording console actually works. So let's talk about that for a moment. I'm going to identify a term here called signal flow. And signal flow is essentially the path that the audio travels when it's being recorded. So let's take a simple signal flow example. Let's say we have someone singing into a microphone. Okay, that microphone gets plugged into one of these channels. At that point, I could manipulate the sound or use some of these buttons on the channel to shape it or change it or do various things with it, which we will talk about a little bit later. But I'll essentially use one of these channels, and I'll use this volume control on the channel to then send that signal or send that microphone sound, or the vocal, if you will, to a recording medium. In some cases, it used to be recording tape. In these cases, it's probably a hard drive or some sort of hard disk recorder. At that point, then I need to actually hear the audio signal. Well, as is configured in a recording studio, I'm going to hear that signal coming back on another one of these strips, where I can again manipulate the sound, sonically change it a little bit, and then do what we call monitor the sound, actually send it to the speakers in the control room so I can hear the sound. So again, the singer sings in the microphone, it goes through one of these strips, it gets recorded into the digital format or whatever recording medium we're using, and then it comes back and I begin to hear it or monitor it. If you look in your workbooks, you'll see the identification of the input channel. Well, the input channel is the channel used to initiate the sound to the tape medium. So again, I send the microphone into the input channel, it gets recorded on the tape medium, and then it comes back down to the monitor channel. You may want to note in your workbook the monitor channel is what receives the playback of the tape medium and then sends it to the speakers or your headphones so you can actually hear the signal. This is known as a split design operation, or a split design console. There's another type of operation or console called an inline design. So if we look at this channel strip again, we actually see not one volume control, but we actually see two in the same strip. So this identifies this console as having the ability to operate in an inline fashion. What that means essentially is the microphone will come into the input channel, it'll get recorded into the recording medium, and then it'll come back down to the second volume control here, and I could use that to send the signal to the speakers in the control room or the headphones. So the input channel is in this strip with this large volume control, and then the monitor channel is the smaller volume control here. If I wanted to, I could use the smaller volume control to input it to the tape machine and have the larger one for monitoring. It really doesn't matter. The important thing to note here is that a split design requires one strip for input, one strip for monitoring or listening. An inline design requires one strip for recording, and the same strip can be used for listening or monitoring. Even on this inline recording console, I may decide and choose that I like working in a split console fashion, so I could actually split the board by using one of these strips for the input to the tape machine and another strip for the playback. Now, when you open up your Pro Tools session or you go into Logic or some of the other digital recording software platforms that you may be utilizing in your computer, you'll see mixers that look similar to this. And then you, the engineer, can decide if you like working in a split fashion or an inline design fashion. The important thing is that you know what the options are, and at that point in time you can decide what's best for you. There are no rules here, but those are the two